House to Home, brought to you by RE/MAX Diamond Realty.
My friends Liz and Gina from RE/MAX Diamond Realty are here as they are each and every week for House to Home, and we have somewhat of a cautionary tale to pass on to you. Now, Gina, you are good enough. Unfortunately, you had a passing in your family, so our condolences to you and your family.
Thank you.
But this is also brought to light, and you said you would like to actually share with our audience. A lot of the times we talk about the deeding.
What could happen.
Yeah, what happens if you don't plan for the future and everything like that. Unfortunately, you're going through it firsthand right now, and you've been nice enough to actually share that with us.
Yeah, you know, we're here all the time, Liz and I, giving advice, and it's always, sometimes it's hypothetical, sometimes it's from experiences that we hear from people that contact us. But in this particular case, I kind of wanted to share, you know, especially for the Manumcos out there, because my mom passed away recently, and for the last 4 years, being the realtor that I am and always giving advice, I had been asking her to deed her home, you know, pick a person. There's 7 of us, brothers and sisters, and I had been sharing with her, Mom, you need to decide what to do with the house, because if you don't decide, it's going to get stuck in probate. And so I've had a deed ready for her, I think for 4 years, and it's been blank, waiting for her signature. And just very recently, I think in January, she came back from a trip, and I said, hey, Mom, you know, that thing's still sitting there. And she just, for whatever reason, she just could not get herself to put a name on it and sign the documents. So now what's happened with us in her passing, and this is what will happen if a family member doesn't make that decision, the 7 of us had to sit and decide, what are we going to do with this property? And luckily enough, in my family, it was a 10-minute conversation. We all agreed of what we were going to do with it, and it was peaceful, and nobody has any objections. So instead of focusing on that, it didn't become an issue. It was very smooth. Now we're just focusing on remembering my mom and putting her to rest and completing the rest of the ceremony for her burial. But what's going to happen now, because she didn't sign the deed, is the brother that we've elected should have the house. He's not going to have titleship to this property, right, Liz?
No.
Yeah.
They'd have to go through probate.
Yeah.
So now it's got to go through the courts,
Yes.
because that is the process.
Yes. You'd have to go through the probate process, and then of course the thing that's going to happen is, because there are other heirs, what normally happens when you go through the probate, they contact all the heirs, and since the family has already elected one brother to take over the property, all the heirs will have to sign a quitclaim deed, or so that they have no interest in the property, to allow him to get the property. And fortunately for Gina, it was only a 10-minute process. Everybody, you know, they were all in agreement.
Very, very civil.
It's very civil.
Yeah.
Now, if one of them disagreed, then that turns everything upside down. So when they go to the attorney to prepare the probate documents, more than likely he will contact each and every one of the siblings, because they're all heirs. And since no will was in place, normally every heir is entitled to, you know, the property, where they could either sell it and distribute the proceeds. But in this case, it's going to the brother. All of them will have to sign a quitclaim deed. And once they do that, then they can move forward, prepare the documents, bring it to the court. The court will make a decision and finalize the documents, and then it does get deeded over to the individual.
But that is another process, and what you and your brothers and sisters have to go through right now, in addition to the very human side of you know, grieving and dealing with that.
And it's a process, but it's not without cost. And I think that's going to be the biggest burden to my brother, is getting the deed prepared and having it recorded. Might have been a $300 payment versus now going through probate. It could be anywhere from maybe $3,000 to $5,000, right, Liz?
Yes, and it just depends also.
For the value, it's based on value.
It depends on the value, and if there were more property, of course, the probate fees are increased based on the total asset of the estate. In this particular case, it's one house.
So maybe can we say lesson learned for, like you were saying, you were addressing specifically like Manumco or people with property right now. We know you don't want to address it because it's very scary to address your mortality, and you know it can get you a little bit down. But think about some of the undue pressure you're imposing and costs,
Yes.
on your
Costs.
descendants from that
Yes.
point
Yeah,
on.
we want
Yes.
to emphasize that to the Manamkus, that when you do not make a decision or do not plan for the inevitable, which is bound to happen, you're going to burden the heirs, and then they have to figure things out. On top of burdening them with the decision, they also have to come out with out-of-pocket expenses to complete that process.
And fortunately, you and your, like as you said, you and your siblings got through it very, very civil, very quickly. That doesn't happen a lot of the time, too.
necessarily
And
so.
No,
sometimes it's a
not
very
necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we do thank you for your candor and sharing your story with us. And again, our
Yeah.
condolences are with you.
Thank you.
Okay. Please stay tuned, everyone. We're back after this.